Welcome, you're watching BQ Prime. I'm Tamanna Inamdar. Real estate stocks have been on a hot streak. In the last 6 months, the NSE Realty Index has increased by nearly 40%, and there has been a slew of good numbers coming out from real estate companies. The reason now seems to be clear. Let me just draw your attention to a couple of reports that have been out in the last week. So Knight Frank, in its report, says that Mumbai recorded its best property registration in over a decade in October, and 10,523 properties were registered in the Mumbai region in October 2023, which is a surge of 25% compared to the year before. 80% of this was residential. Another interesting report has come out from Anurok, which says that luxury home sales have risen 115% year on year across the first 9 months of 2023. Of course, this is across all major markets. Perhaps this is one of the reasons that we are seeing a zoom in realty stocks as well, that consumption is growing. The festive season is a time when people buy. The question is, how sustainable is this boom? What's the reason for this optimism and enthusiasm? To speak more on this, I'm joined today by Gulam Zia, Executive Director, Knight Frank India. I'm also speaking today with Boman Rustom Irani, CMD of Keystone Realtors. He's also President, CREDAI, National Executive Director. Welcome to both of you, and thank you so much for speaking with us today. Mr. Zia, let me begin with your take on some of the data in the report you put out, where you're saying highest registrations in a year. Now, we know there was already a spike post-pandemic, the work from home impact, etc. Are you saying that even beyond that, despite increasing interest rates, home buying is at a peak?
Absolutely, Tamanna. And if you're taking it back to the pandemic era, I would rather request you to take it even longer in past and understand why it is happening the way it is happening today. I look at it this way, that prior to pandemic as well, the residential real estate was in dumps. Actually, year after year, it was shrinking. Number of sales, apartments was actually dropping year after year. While that was an era where the economy was doing well, stock exchange was doing well, there was a lot of wealth creation, salary rises, and all that was happening, but home sales were not improving. And post-pandemic, while a few of one of the hypotheses is that people wanted to get bigger homes, work from home, etc., compel them to do that. Whatever the case may be, the reality is that all those guys who didn't buy the homes when they had money are today buying. And that is continuing in spite of the home loan rates shooting up so much, perhaps highest in last almost about a decade and a half or so. In spite of that, there is no letting up. So the number of sales have been shooting up month after month after COVID for sure. And in last year and a half or so, especially in mid to upper end, the activities are far better than what we have seen in last year and almost about decade and a half or so. Over to you, Tamanna.
Okay, so now the question is that what segments are we seeing this increased activity in, and is inventory keeping up? Mr. Irani, I'd like to have your take on that.
Thanks, Tamanna. So Gulam has spelled out the exact lay of the land in terms of how the market is growing. But what's important to note, Gulam, is that development is getting more and more into the realm of redevelopment as such. So there's a lot of registrations that you are seeing in the numbers are also those that are the redevelopment registrations that are taking place. So if you just cut it down by about 20%, that might be the real number. And I'm just being exaggerating that point. Second part, Tamanna, you asked me which are the segments in which there is a supply coming up. I think everywhere where infrastructure is growing, so places as far out as Dombivli, Kalyan are seeing a whole lot of development. Of course, that's in the larger MMR area. In Mumbai itself, wherever the MTHL lands on our side, that's where development is being sought after. Prime suburbs like Bandra, Khar, Santa Cruz are being sought after. Places like Mahim and Matunga are where a lot of development is coming along. These were the erstwhile forgotten areas, but given the increased connectivity that we have due to the metro railway passing from there and always being close to the sea link, is seeing a good spurt in terms of demand as well as supply over there.
Okay, because we're talking specifically about the Mumbai region as of now, and we'll expand the scope of our conversation as well. But I'm coming to you, Mr. Irani, on this. A lot of concern recently because of high levels of pollution in Mumbai. 6,000 construction sites are there. The BMC has put in stringent conditions for developments. How is that impacting? There's also reports that some sites have been asked to stop development. Can you just give us a picture of what's happening there?
I will agree 100% that the pollution levels are higher than most Mumbaikars are used to, and higher than normal in terms of Mumbai sense. But there's also a geological phenomena because of the high pressure that's been created due to Cyclone Tej, I'm told, is what's keeping the particulate matter down. Given that, of course, it's a fact that real estate and infrastructure development add to the pollution in terms of dust for the city. So the measures that have been asked, some of them, of course, the timelines given are too short. But the measures that have been asked is, erect about 25 feet fences around properties to hold the dust back in, do sprinkling of water, get the fogging machines so that you can keep the dust down. Washing tires, I think that is, of course, something that we should all do. Washing tires when the trucks are, coming out of our sites so they don't carry the dust out on the road. And of course, creating an envelope, a green envelope for the buildings under construction where the RCC work is going on. So, but our say as the industry was that, yes, these measures are required and we will tell all our members to get started on it. It might not be a very good idea to actually stop work with giving only a 15-day timeline, because that would only mean that in 15 days, these things are not going to be possible across 6,000 sites. And more importantly, across all the infrastructure sites, you're not going to stall the infrastructure of the city. You've got to find other ways of keeping that going. Otherwise, you will have a problem in terms of timelines over there. And the government has always spent a lot of money on that. They need to give a longer timeline. Maybe 3 months would have been more like it. And after that, of course, come down very heavily on all developments that are not following the sustainability initiatives that have been prescribed by the BMC.
The Mumbai pollution problem is a mix of factors. It's, of course, all of these projects which have work on right now, but also major infra projects. I'm just talking about those infra projects because it's also fueling this boom, in a sense, at least in the MMR region. You have the Mumbai Metro, the Mumbai Trans Harbour Link, the Coastal Road Project, the International Airport in Navi Mumbai. All of this is coming up. Mr. Zia, how much of an impact are these infrastructural projects having on the kind of appetite we're seeing right now?
Well, Tamanna, I would not really be too kind, or I would not give a lot of credit to infrastructure projects because of like whatever activity that we see in sales, etc. Infrastructure projects are not yet making large impact, because first, whatever infrastructure projects are activated are just a fraction of what is up in store. So in our view, infrastructure projects, unless and until most of them are active, it's not going to add much benefit to the life of Mumbai. And in fact, in the interim, it's only making the life so much more horrible, whether it is pollution or traffic snarls, etc. So we still have some way to go before the impact of infrastructure improvement is felt, especially on the real estate market. So just to answer your question in a single line, well, it is not because of infrastructure projects yet. Maybe next year and a half or two, we shall see more impact of that felt on Mumbai, but not yet.
I want to just get a sense of the business side, Mr. Irani. On the one hand, you've had interest rates staying firm. How is that impacting demand? Are you seeing an impact at all? For developers, raw material costs have been an issue over the last couple of years. Has that tempered? And is that also why we're seeing improved profitability? Is all of this demand translating into improved profitability for the sector?
So first, if I may, Gulam, just differ a little bit from what you said about the infrastructure. Yes, the ongoing infrastructure is adding to some amount of pain in the Mumbaikar's life because it takes him longer to travel from home to office and otherwise. But see, we are all positive about the fact that this infrastructure, which is something that the city has never seen something of this scale, is going to aid or make the lives of people better, and people always buy on that news. Having said that, Mumbai tremendously will benefit whenever this infrastructure is ready. And today, the government is absolutely time-bound. Deliveries are being made on all sides, whether it is development as well as infrastructure development. So towards that, I think it is a positive. I have seen people buying in areas like Matunga, for instance, where the metro rail is going to connect us to BKC and connect us to the town, and also buying has spurted up heavily, like I mentioned, in the Bandra Khar Santa Cruz suburbs, because of the fact that people are seeing that there'll be smoother commute between that suburb and the city itself and across to BKC, becoming a hub for the commercial development. About the increases in rates, first of all, we are very glad that the RBI has held the repo rate and not really increased it. More than anything else, I think it's a issue of sentiment. When interest rates do go up, people feel beaten down. I keep saying this time and again that real estate is probably one of the best hedges against inflation, and people should actually buy it. Rate doesn't matter because you wind up buying it a lot more expensive because of the inflation at a later date. So a short-term blip in the interest rate should not bother, but it's a sentimental thing. So people will always hold back new purchases if the interest rates are up. And I'm not sure, with regards to the material prices, it's not only material prices, it's also technology. Real estate developers are moving up the technology chain. We're working with, whole slew of new construction methodologies, which is allowing us to kind of control costs on one side while improving the homes for the purchasers. I must say we haven't been very successful on that. The costs are still very, very high. And given the present taxation regime, and I could speak separately on it on another day, but given the GST impact on redevelopment, which we've appealed to the government of India time and again, is affecting or hurting the real estate sector very badly, and my customers are paying a heavy price for no fault of theirs.
So, for simple answer to my question, that all of these higher sales and all of this excitement, high interest, is it translating into improved profitability? Mr. Irani, what would the simple answer be?
Yes, it's the velocity of sales, Tamanna, that really helps, because that brings down interest costs for the developer itself. And given our experience with the recent launches that we've had, apartments of good developers are literally flying off the shelf, in a manner of speaking, the moment they are launched, and that is actually a very, very good sign. People are being able to put their trust in, thanks to RERA, and partly thanks to even the reputation that certain developers have built up.
There was a story recently about a launch in Pune where people lined up round the block all night to get their number in, as if they were buying the latest, phone. So I don't know if that kind of demand exists across the country. Gulam, is it in the luxury segment? Is this excitement more in the luxury segment, although volumes would be higher in the affordable segment? What's happening in these two areas, if you can give us some idea?
First part is that this is, to start with, it's in luxury segment. And as Boman was talking about, there are 2-3 factors behind it. Developers' reputation, the product quality, etc., are really important for such kind of queues to be built up. What started in Gurgaon some time back was seen in Mumbai as well, and now Pune. So next part of your question was whether it is in a certain location. I would say it is anywhere in the country. When you have a good product coming in, a good developer, a reputed developer coming up with a good project, then the people will be standing out there in queues to buy such apartments. Well, it is happening almost after about a decade or more, because the downturn in real estate was pretty long. So today, when this is happening, it is of course reminding us of the good old days of real estate sector, when people used to do that a lot. But to me, this is just the start. As I said, it's starting on the upper end of the market. The mid to lower end of the market is yet to see this kind of hordes coming in to buy apartments. That shall happen over a period of time. But it is happening, and it is repeating time and again.
Okay. Just your take on that as well, Mr. Irani?
Yeah, may I add? See, it's not only in the housing or the luxury housing. Gulam, you're aware that, top German brands are launching automobiles, and they are literally getting sold out. The entire year's production is getting sold out in a day or two. And there was an article related to that. I would say this, that the overall economic prosperity and the feel-good factor that has been created is what is driving people to invest in, which is a very good thing for all of us. Invest in actual landed real estate. At the same point of time, people are living up, or rather upping the notch of living. So that is why luxury housing, which we are seeing a spurt in, it's not only luxury housing, it is also in the we wrong to say that it's cheap, but 1.5 to 2 lakh, 1.5 to 2 crore rupee homes are also doing extremely well. As a matter of fact, at Rustomji, we are so focused on it that we are trying to launch more and more homes in the 1 to 3 crore bracket, because the people who were earlier trying to get a better deal in terms of price are now trying to get a better deal in terms of quality or in terms of lifestyle amenities, and it really works.
So amenities are working, better quality is working. I just want to wrap up with, the sustainability question. With the amount of construction on right now, with the amount of inventory which is going to flow in, what happens in the first couple of quarters of calendar year FY24? Or not FY, sorry, calendar year 24. Do we then see the pendulum sort of swinging, a glut again of inventory? Will the demand keep up? Mr. Zia, you want to take that first?
To me, this whole discussion about inventory overhang or such terminologies, etc., to me is actually unfounded. There is no reason to even worry about, because the kind of numbers I'm looking at in the top 8 cities where most of us talk about home or real estate, the number of the apartments that are launched or available to be bought are about 480,000, and against that the velocity of sales is such that you will be selling at least 170 to 180,000 apartments in a year minimum. So which means that the inventory will not last even 2 years. About 7 to 8 quarters of the inventory is out there. To me, the problem is on the other end. The issue of not enough launches is something which is worrying me, because that's at least currently the reality is such that the velocity of sales is so high that you will absorb whatever inventory you have in next 2 years maximum. And then what happens is that if you don't have enough of new launches happening, it may have an impact on the prices in times to come. Simple economics. So here the problem is not so much of extra inventory. I would say for next 2-3 years, I would love to see more launches happening if I have to keep the prices under check.
Your point to that, Mr. Irani?
Thank you, Tamanna. Tamanna, I'll give you 1 or 2 simple statistics. We're 17% of the world population with 3% of the world land, right? So that should tell you what the scope of, let's say, housing is in our country. Secondly, if I'm not mistaken, I don't have the numbers, off my head, but China probably had its lowest sales reported in the last year, and that was still higher than the best year that India has had, which was last year, and by a large margin. So China's worst year, after all the stuff that China has gone through, its worst year was still far more in terms of number of people. And now if you take India, China, I can give you parity on a few counts. In terms of population, we are ahead of them. In terms of GDP itself, of course, we are way behind. But we are an increasingly growing, wealthy middle class, and that will lead to a great amount of buying of homes. Not only buying of homes, but buying of everything. The consumption is going to increase. We are a consumption-driven economy as of right now, and I think this worry, and Gulam, you said it very rightly, it keeps, every time sales start taking place, everybody says, oh, when are the dark clouds going to come? I think good developers have got a huge and infinite growth ahead of them. And as far as the rest of them are concerned, this business is becoming extremely regulated. It's becoming extremely competitive. And you're going to see better developers or people who've got the mettle or the skill coming in and developing better. And yes, you're right, Gulam. I am personally of the view that, we're not seeing enough launches, whether it's out here or around the country as well. There aren't enough launches compared to what kind of consumption there is. And Goa could be an aberration in terms of that example. But just to tell you, 3 years back or 4 years back, prices in Goa and prices today are like a totally different level. And the only reason for that is there isn't enough supply out there.
The Goa story is also because everyone, their neighbor and their nanny, moved to Goa in the pandemic to work from home. Their companies have all called them back. So we'll have to see whether the Goa prices sustain. But on that note, I will have to wrap it up. It's interesting, at a time when most financial advisors would tell people don't buy a house, and especially not for investment, just rent it out. No point owning a house. Indians seem to be sticking to the age-old tradition of having your own dream home. And that's good for the economy, definitely good for real estate stocks. Thank you so much, Gulam Zia and Mr. Irani, for joining us today.
Thank you.